watchers slash listeners is a huge Meatloaf fan. He knows who he is.
Yeah.
But we went and saw the Turkey Jam, Nuno and the boys, over at the Portuguese Club over Thanksgiving weekend. I was not going to go back this far, but it was just a huge. It was a cover band doing everything, and they did "Paradise by the Dashboard Light" with Maria, his niece, on the other vocal. Oh my God, did she kill it?
I watched that video a couple of times.
It was a ton of fun. Oh my
amazing.
goodness, I forgot about that one. And of course, the Nate Ramos band I've been playing with is staying really busy. We've had a bunch of gigs, and there's a place in Boston on Lansdowne Street near Fenway called Loretta's Last Call. Shout out to Loretta's. They may be a future sponsor, by the way. I've got that in the works of the No Hissy Fit Zone podcast. But they're a country-themed bar. We played there on Friday night, the 22nd, and 9 to midnight. And we were going to Jersey the next morning for a Christmas dinner with my cousins and family down there. So we're going to try to be on the road by 9:30. And I got a call that afternoon that we weren't playing from 9 until midnight. We were playing from 10 until 1 a.m. Of course, at that point, it doesn't really matter. I'm hanging out with these young guys, and I feel like I'm in my 20s again because I rolled into bed that night at 3 and set my alarm for 9. Of course, I was up at 7:55 without the alarm, and we hit the road. It was awesome. Got a cup of coffee, drove down, saw family for Christmas. This is my 5 first cousins, all of their spouses, then kids, and now it's become the next generation of kids. So one of my first cousins is a grandfather, and so there were 6-month-old and 2-year-olds in this, and there probably had to be 35 people in this house.
Wow.
And Italian side of the family. So the Feast of the 7 Fishes, oh, it was unbelievable.
Wow.
It was spectacular. Some red wine and a lot of food, and we did a Secret Santa thing. And generally in the past, we've driven down and driven back the same day, but Lynn and I stayed over and took our time kind of getting out Sunday, which is really, it made it special. We weren't in a rush to get out that night. So it was great. A lot of fun. And then that same club, Loretta's, asked us to play on New Year's Eve, but I thought New Year's Eve, but they were doing live music all day. So they asked us to play from 3 until 6 in the afternoon.
That's good.
Which I loved. It's not like loading your drums in like full daylight and watching the sun go down as you're playing. We were done at 6.
Nice, huh?
And I mean, I was packed up and home by 7:30 on New Year's Eve, and exhausted and asleep by 10:30. So it was perfect New Year's Eve for me.
So now you said you feel like you're in the 20s. I've been doing that since the first of the month, right? But everybody says to me, why are you faking this thing about being so young? You're not 20 years old. Stop doing that. You're at least 40. I said, yeah, okay.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
I'll take it.
It was fun. So Nate Ramos band, we're going into the studio next week after next, and we're recording a 10-song album of Nate's originals. And the album is called Across the States. And we've actually got a club booked in Boston in June for an album release party. I mean, crazy. It sounds very official. But we've been rehearsing like crazy. I've been playing downstairs to metronome because this is my first time in a studio. We're doing tracks. When Stillface went to the studio, we just did a live recording, which was impressive in itself. But this is going to be all individually tracked out. So I'll be listening to scratch tracks at the right tempo, beats per minute, and drums get recorded first. So on the 15th, we're going into the studio. I took the week off of work. So 9 to 5, Monday through Friday in this recording studio right up the street here in Princeton, Mass. And we're looking forward to it.
So you guys on your buddies on Stillface, they're okay with you playing with these other bands?
Oh yeah, you know, I mean, they're it's whatever, of course.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
of course. So,
yeah, good for you.
And we're having some fun. Stillface, we're talking about going back to the studio. Also, we just made a list of like 7 new songs. What I do in every time we're rehearsing is I just have my iPhone out and I'll record. Like, hold on, do that again. I'll hit record. So I have so much potential music in this phone. So we just started going through it, and we have like 7 new originals that were actually just about all put together.
Wow.
Just because we're going through the phone, like this was recorded on June 12th, 2022. Listen to this. And we're like, let's do something with that. So And one of the fun parts of, Still Face is an instrumental band. And so it's funny that we even name our songs because you might as well name them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
But
Wasn't
there's
it?
usually something going on around what's happening in our lives as we're writing that song, like Crackhead with a Plan or whatever. So I was looking at this, listening, Passageway and Gravel Yard and Circumstantial Evidence. I forget the list is downstairs. We had a great rehearsal this week, and just it's good to be re-inspired, and be like having a focus. So we're trying to get those recorded as well. So a lot of music going on. It's been fun.
I'm trying to think. There's a band that used to do that with every song was just a number. I know that Joe Walsh used to do like Funk 49 and Funk. That's what he had.
Funk 49, of course, yeah.
But he had other numbers too. But he had the regulars.
Doesn't Corey Glover from Living Color have a solo album with a song called like Hymn 43 on it or something like that?
So
Now you got me.
You know who's gonna be touring with Extreme?
Living Color.
Living Color, yeah.
And they're finally coming to Florida. You're probably going to go see them, obviously.
Well, they're going to be over here in St. Petersburg at whatever. So we're close to like 20 minutes from my house. But they're going to be in Orlando and Jacksonville as well.
Really?
Yeah.
I was just trying to find it. I couldn't find it. Yeah, they had that big tour, and then I guess they were home for the holidays on a break, and they announced the next piece of the tour in Florida was finally on the list. So I was excited for you.
So one of my buddies was a touring musician for 25 years, real good guitar player, and then he got into doing comedy. So and he was up in California, so he moved to Dunedin, Florida, which is right near Clearwater. And I have a friend that has a music store in Clearwater. So he called me up and said, "Hey, Tony, I have a friend that does a touring musician for 25 years, and he's doing some acting in California. Now he's also doing comedy. And he just moved to Dunedin over here. He doesn't know anybody here, so I told him about you. He wants to meet you. Would you do that?" So sure. So we set it up and we went for lunch.
Nice.
So I'm talking to him, and I want to find out about his music. I said, "So what kind of music do you like?" He says, "Oh, all kinds of music. I'm pretty much of a how do you say it?
So he was a touring musician. Wow.
We were saying like progressive funk or something. I forget how he described it, but anyway.
Progressive funk. That's interesting.
I said, "So who's some of your favorite guitar players?" Well, my number one guitar player.
And you've probably never heard of him, right?
That's what he said. You're probably not familiar with him, but he's my number one guitar player. I said, "So what's his name?" He says, Nuno Bettencourt. Says, "Oh, I thought those guys are the ones that did the More Than Words or something." He said, "Yeah, but that's not the stuff they do. They do progressive." I forget how he said it. Anyway.
Well, the extreme fans start to like explain More Than Words. Like, yeah, but that's not like their career, and don't.
So here's what I did. I didn't say, "Yeah, but I know these guys." I didn't. I just said, "Well, that's good that you do." Whatever sort of. And then he moved to St. Augustine. So one day I called him and says, "Hey, what are you doing Thursday night?" He says, "Well," I says, "You want to go to a show in Orlando? I have tickets for a really good show in Orlando at the Hard Rock Cafe." He goes, "Oh yeah, I don't know if I want to go to Orlando on a Thursday night." I said, "I think it's a band you might like." He goes, "Well, who is this?" I says, "A band called Extreme. You familiar with him?" He goes,
"You heard of him?"
He says, "This is so funny though. Now this guy's a comedian guy, right?" So he says, "You have tickets for that?" He says, "Man, I'll be there. What time?" So shows up, right? So we actually watching the show, and I could tell he was really into it. And sometimes Nuno just gets on the acoustic guitar and plays by himself with the band.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And he actually had tears in his eyes when Nuno was doing some of that stuff. I was like, wow. So then after the show, walking out and there's the thing with the ropes with the guys who letting people go backstage, the ones that have passes. And I says, "Hey, look at this. Looks like they're letting people going over there to maybe meet the band. You want to go see them?" He says, "You can't do that." I says, "Yeah, I'm gonna try." He goes, "You can't do that." I says, "You don't understand. I'm a good talker. Just sit here and stay right here."
I'm a good talker.
That's what I said. "Let me go talk to the guy over there at the guy at the thing and see what he says." Right? So I go to the guy, says, "Listen, I got 2 passes and I showed him my pass because I had in my pocket." Says, "One's for me, one's for that guy over there, my friend." But he doesn't know that I have a pass. So I want to mess with him a little bit.
Right.
So he
So
says,
now you're through, but he doesn't know why, except you're a good talker.
so then I
Okay.
got through, and then I'm a bit behind the ropes, and he's looking at me. He says, I says, come here, come here. He says, don't you want to go see the band? He says, what the heck are you doing? How'd you do that? I says, I told you I'm a good talker. He says, what? He says, go over there to that guy over there, the thing, and tell him that you're with me. You just put this, I'm with Tony over there, and he'll let you in. He says, oh, come on, that's baloney. I said, go for it. So he goes over there and says, I'm with that guy. So, hey, okay, go ahead. So you let him through, right? So now,
Come on in.
this is where it gets funny. So we're going down this long hallway to go to where the band's supposed to be, back there. And Nuno was in the hall, leaning up against the wall with his foot on the wall, and his son says, Efren Cabral, man, I'm so glad you're here. And he gives me a big hug, and we're just talking like we're good friends, which we are. And Doug is like, what the F is going on here? And Nuno says, what do you mean what's going on? He says, you guys know each other? He goes, this guy used to be at my house when I was 8 years old, every friggin' day from there, because he played in the band with my brothers, he played soccer with my brothers, and he was dating my sister. So he was there every day, and he was always picking on me. And I always liked him a lot, and I still like him, whatever. So he goes, how come you didn't tell me that, man? I says, would you have believed me? He says, no. I says, that's why. But now you know.
That's awesome. What a fun story.
It was actually,
Especially for someone who idolized this thing so much. That's so cool.
what's in here's some people sometimes are so strange. When Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, won the presidency or whatever, somebody put a thing looked like the background of a Pornhub, and it had a picture of Joe and Kamala, whatever it is, and it said, Joe and Kamala F the whole country or something like that. So it was a joke. It was kind of funny. So I sent it to him because he's a comedian. He says, "Nah, man, don't be like that. You're not that kind of guy because you're too good a guy to be like that." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "We were just talking texting, whatever." And he went on with about 10 different pages, a bunch of
Oh,
stuff about the Trump and how Trump is this and Trump is that. And I sent you a joke that had nothing to do with Trump. What's the matter with you? Relax. So he keeps going. I said, okay, man. So I stopped talking to him. I says, and now he called me the other day, hey, man, Nuno's gonna be over here in Orlando. We gotta go see him. I says, well, go. Because what he wants me to do is to get him backstage again. But
right.
you can't be rude to me when I just send you a little small joke.
We're in a weird place right now in this country. It's a little worrisome to me just because, and we don't do politics on the show really. And I'm not going to do politics now, but I'll comment on the idea of politics because it's just so polarized.
Oh yeah.
And if you have an R by your name and you have to hate people who have a D by their name, and D's have to hate R's, and no one's having a conversation. And it's a scary time because I think conversations where ideas get exchanged and people can talk. Hey, how come you believe that? Let's talk about it. And when I was a kid, a little kid, so 60s, it seemed like, I remember conversations that my parents were having, I think, with other people around current events, which is what's happening politically. And they would actually talk about, oh gosh, let me think, what's your idea on that? And now it's like nobody wants to talk to anybody. I'm so polarized over here. You're it's just, I was reading something that comes up a lot in the stuff I do in the talks I give around confirmation bias. And confirmation bias is the idea that we are more likely to believe something if it confirms what we already believe.
Yeah, yeah.
And you travel that road down and you go down those rabbit holes, and we get to this place where we are right now where it's so polarized, nobody can talk about anything and everybody has to hate each other. And nothing's funny anymore, right? Like there was that joke, like you weren't saying this joke is funny because I don't like these two. You're saying this joke is funny.
Right.
And he took it like you're only saying it's funny because you're on the other side. Like it's just
Yeah.
funny. And I have this conversation with people all the time, like, and we kind of joke, but like nothing's funny anymore because you can't allow it to be funny. I was watching Dave Chappelle. He's got some new special on Netflix. He's
Yeah.
a funny dude.
Oh,
And
is, yeah.
he doesn't come up to this line of what's okay. He crosses that thing quick. And he makes fun of every group out there. And what the encouraging part was that everybody in the audience was laughing at all of it. He's like, come on, people, this is funny. We got to relax a little bit. So there's my take. But that's a good example of it.
I had a situation when I was up there, one time I went to Massachusetts and was in Cape Cod, because my sisters and stuff all go to Cape for a week or two. And then my son from Norway, Joshua, came over there, and so I was up there, I was really excited about them. And one of my sisters is like one of my favorite people, her and her husband. So we went to dinner, and then they started like trying to convert me to be a Democrat or something. I said, first of all, it's none of your business. She says, well, why are you Republican? I says, I'm not. I was, but I'm not anymore. I'm in no
Yeah, just whatever. Independence, the big word, right?
yeah. So, but they're like going on. I said, so what happened? So what happened was, just like you, when we came to America and we're living in Massachusetts, we all became a Democrat by that's all it was for everybody over there is Democrat. So we didn't really think about it. We just decided to be. But then when I was a little bit older, in my mid-30s, and listening to Jimmy Carter and
Carter.
the
In that political time frame, who was in there? Carter, Reagan.
Reagan, yes. So when I listened to Ronald Reagan talking about stuff and the way he explained it, I says, I'm more in tune with what this guy thinks than what Jimmy Carter did. So I changed over. But then after a while, I don't want to be one or the other. I want to vote for whoever I think is the best person that's running. No, I don't want to be a. So I had to show him my card that says no party affiliation with my voter cards. Is, oh yeah,
Yeah.
but you know, if you guys wanted to keep doing that, I'll go sit at that chair over there and eat on my own, or we could just talk like family. What do you? I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk politics. Number one, number two. I don't want you to be criticizing me because I don't see it just like you do. You want me to go sit at that table? That's like.
But you know what's interesting about what you just said, because they're assuming you don't think like they do because of the letter in front of their name or how your affiliations versus let's talk about it. Because I think that probably whether I agree with someone or not in terms of how we vote, I got a good friend of mine. I think about this. I'm sure we vote fairly opposite, but if we actually sat down and forgot about the titles and talked about the issues, we would agree on 75% of everything. But no one's talking about that. They're just talking about like, I'm already over in this camp, you're in that camp. I either got to convert you or hate you or not talk to you. That was my point.
But you know how you said 75%? You know that 76% of people don't know exactly what the percentage is.
I heard that 67% of statistics are made up on the spot. So oh, so change of subject and comedy. So there's a comedian, I told you about him. I knew this guy's name. His name is Bob Marley. And everybody assumes like the reggae guy, not that guy, but the same exact name, Bob Marley. He's from Maine. And I remember driving my daughter to New Jersey for her freshman year at college. This was, oh my God, this is 11 years ago.
Wow.
Listening to Bob Marley CDs. Remember CDs? And like, I'm talking like crying, laughing so hard. And I just knew the name. I haven't listened to him in years. And then on social media, he comes across, he was performing in Worcester. And there's a beautiful hall right downtown Worcester called Mechanics Hall. And it's set aside for like fancy plays and like maybe an orchestra, like beautiful spot. And Bob Marley's playing there on a Friday night last week. So I surprised Lenny, got a couple of tickets. He was doing an 8 o'clock show and they added a 5 o'clock show. So it was awesome.
Wow.
So we go to this 5 o'clock show and we park and we're walking up the street to get in. She likes to be surprised. She trusts me to surprise her and I like to surprise her. So she doesn't know where we're going. And I just said, it's going to be fun. And I kind of give her some sort of dress idea, but whatever. And we're going to be done by before 7. And if we go out or whatever. So we're walking up this side street to get to Main Street in Worcester. And around the corner is Mechanics Hall. And she's looking at the crowd walking. She's like, well, we're following a lot of old people. And I said, I know it feels like that, but I bet we're their same age. But we get in. Bob Marley is one funny dude.
Really?
And that's why I sent you that. He's playing down near you somewhere. Yeah. Oh my God, you would love this. And so there was a guy who came out first, introduced the warm up. There was a warm up guy, I forget, Brian Galecki or something like that. He was pretty funny. And he did 10 or 12 minutes. And he introduced Bob Marley. And Bob Marley went an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 25, right through. I mean, I looked at the clock when it was done. I was like, it's 10 to 7. It was unbelievable and funny. And he turns on and off the accent, and he's got all these voices for his crazy family and just anecdotes. And if anybody is listening or watching and doesn't know Bob Marley, go check him out on YouTube. You should go see him, Tony, because he's going to be near you. I sent you that. It was closer to you than I saw than the one I sent you, but really a lot of fun. It's just so good to get out and just like laugh and breathe and get rid of the dust. I don't know. It was just a wonderful time. It was a good time.
That's awesome. Plus, that other guy that you turned me on to that doesn't have jokes, he just talks to the crowd.
Matt Rife, R-I-F-E.
Right. That guy is amazing.
Yeah, and that's fascinating because that's a whole different comedy. That's walking out there with zero agenda and just starting to talk to the audience and going. And it's a whole different skill. And he does it really, he's a young dude and he does it really well.
And then there's a guy by the name Jules. What's his first
I
name?
don't know that one.
He does that too. He goes out on stage, right? But not like Rife, but he goes out there and he just starts talking to people. So he says, "Hey, where are you guys from? Middle East?" You know,
Yeah.
so he knows when he starts talking about, he knows about every place, all the Mexican he knows, he just talks about them and he makes fun of them jokingly, and he's funny. But the guy that laughs the most in the show is not the audience, it's him. He does
Right.
so much, he says some stuff and he just laughs like crazy that just listening to him laughing is funny.
Yeah, it's so fun. Just I always say I want to go out for more live comedy, and we rarely do. So when the Marley thing came up, my other big favorite is Nate Bargatze,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and he's got a. In fact, I'm listening to this podcast. Let me give you a podcast recommendation. I just came across it and said, let me put this in, and it was called Comedy During Airplane Mode. That's the name of the podcast. And this is just a list of comedians. Jim Gaffigan was on here for an hour and 4 minutes. Hannibal Buress, Louis C.K. So Nate Bargatze has one on. It was an hour long, and I listened to it, and there was a lot of material I'd never heard of his from watching his stuff on YouTube. I love Nate Bargatze. He's fun.
He's funny, yeah. Huh.
So a couple podcast recommendations. Jen and I are continuing our virtual book movie club. We talked last time about The Shining, so we just recently read by Stephen King Misery, which I forgot was a Stephen King book. And I think most people listening to this probably haven't read the book, but they saw the movie Misery in 1990 with James Caan and Kathy Bates. You remember this?
Yeah.
And so what Jen and I do is we read the book together separately, and going to come up with a better term than together separately, but everybody understands what that means. And then we watch the movie. So Thursday night we watch the movie. She's home, I'm home. We hit play at the same time. We're texting each other during it. So it was interesting because we both found the book tough to get through. It was very wordy, neither of us loved. She did not like the book, and I didn't love it. She had, I think, an advantage of not. I had seen the movie before, so I'm picturing the movie characters as I'm reading the book, and she didn't have to do that, which is why a book is important. But the movie was terrific, and you don't need to read the book first. Actually, it's just a good movie. Whereas if someone said to me, "Hey, have you seen The Shining?" I wouldn't say it's a great movie. I would have a conversation around how it's different from the book and some of that stuff. But Misery was outstanding. So if you haven't seen it, absolutely make a point to see Misery. I would put it in the psychological horror situation. It's not a horror movie with the blood and the gore and the guts. It's just a psychological or a suspenseful drama.
All right. So now,
Really fun.
have you considered doing a podcast with you and Jenna talking about the book that you both read separately? Then you talk about it.
Good idea.
So remember I told you about this guy that used to work at Silver King Brewery. Matthew?
Wait a minute. Are you trying to let me down easy so that when I get fired from this gig, I have another podcast to go to? Is that what this is about?
That's not what it's about. It's about just in case you want to fire me. No, but I told you about that guy that was
Backup plan.
We worked at Silver King thing, and he wanted to do a song with us. He wanted to sing. I said,
Oh, yeah.
"Hey, can I do a song? Can I sing with you guys?" I says, "I don't know. Can you?" You know. And then he came out and we did. I forget what the song was now, but anyway, he was really good. And then he ended up. I hooked him up with a guy. I told you that before, and they started a band, and they're doing real well.
Wow.
But he used to do a thing with his kids and stuff where they would go to like horror movies, and they'd sit down and they did a podcast where you sit down and they talk about it. It was kind of interesting to because I'm not really a big guy about the horror movies, but it's just interesting to listen to him. It's funny.
Stephen King is certainly considered the horror author and the horror movies, but horror, and it's a funny word. I define horror meaning like blood and guts and slash, Friday the 13th, that kind of horror gore. I think horror and gore. And not that there isn't that with Stephen King stuff, but so much more of it is that suspense, that psychological suspense stuff, which I find intriguing. The gore stuff is just tiresome. And it's,
So I'm running low on coffee, so we might have to stop this podcast so I can go get some new coffee.
well, from my timer, it's going to be stopped for us shortly. But Misery was excellent. If you've seen the movie and didn't read the book, everybody knows the scene in the movie where she injures her James Caan. I'll just leave it there because I'm going to ruin this. But that scene, everybody knows, is different from that same scene in the book considerably, which was interesting.
Yeah, see, I've never had a desire to go see horror movies. It's not my thing. I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's a cool story to this whole thing, and then there's a whole another character in this. In fact, there are two characters in the movie that were my daughter's favorite characters in the movie that were a whole separate story that weren't even in the book, which made the movie work. And we talked about how they, the people who made the movie read this book and said, okay, how do we take this and make it a movie? Because it has to be very similar, but we got to add some stuff to make it a movie. They did a really nice job. Did I talk last time, my last point from my notes here, about, remember our old friend, we used to listen to him on Tapes of the Week. Speaking of comedy, Andy Andrews.
Yeah.
Did we talk about him on the last podcast in the book I read by him? We must have.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Oh, this blew my mind. It's called The Traveler's Gift.
Yeah, you told me about that. Yeah.
And I actually ended up buying a few copies for some family and for Christmas because it was so blessed my life, and I was actually able to inscribe it to people saying, I hope this book blesses your life like it blessed mine. Man, I would really like to talk and meet this guy.